Watch how most people navigate relationships. The careful calibration, the strategic compromises, the suppressed truths, the accommodated preferences, the swallowed resentments, all of it driven by one fear, the fear of loss, fear of losing the partner, losing the friend, losing the connection, losing the person who validates, completes, or defines them. This fear shapes everything: what they say, what they hide, who they become. They perform constantly to prevent the loss they're terrified of experiencing. Then there's the Sigma male. He says what he thinks, does what he values, lives how he chooses. And if you don't like it, if you can't accept it, if you decide to leave, he'll feel the loss, but he won't fear it. He won't compromise himself to prevent it, won't diminish himself to delay it, won't betray his values to avoid it. And people mistake this for coldness, for inability to love, for emotional unavailability. They're wrong. He loves deeply. He just doesn't fear loss. And understanding why he doesn't fear loss reveals the most fundamental difference between how he experiences relationships and how most people do. The real reason he doesn't fear losing anyone isn't what you think. It's not because he doesn't care. It's not because he can easily replace people. It's not because he's emotionally detached or pathologically independent. The real reason is simpler and more profound. He doesn't fear losing anyone because he's already lost the person he fears losing most: himself. He's already experienced the deepest loss possible, the loss of his authentic self to the demands of others, the erosion of his values to maintain relationships, the compromise of his integrity to preserve connections. He's been there, done that, paid that price, and he's decided that no relationship is worth paying it again. Once you've lost yourself and clawed your way back to yourself, losing anyone else becomes manageable, because you know with absolute certainty that external loss is painful but survivable. Internal loss is devastating and unrecoverable. Let me take you into what this means. Most people haven't lost themselves yet. They're in the process of losing themselves gradually, compromising piece by piece, suppressing bit by bit, accommodating incrementally. They don't notice because it's gradual. They think they're being reasonable, flexible, mature. They're actually disappearing, trading authenticity for approval, trading integrity for acceptance, trading themselves for connection. And they'll keep trading because they haven't hit bottom yet, haven't experienced the horror of looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back, haven't felt the emptiness of being surrounded by people who love a version of you that isn't real. The Sigma male has hit that bottom, has experienced that horror, has felt that emptiness, and having been there, having lost himself completely, he's made a vow. Never again. No person, no relationship, no connection is worth losing himself for. This is why he doesn't fear losing anyone. Not because people don't matter to him, but because he matters to himself more than anyone else can matter. This isn't narcissism, it's survival. He's learned through painful experience that losing yourself is death by degrees. That relationships built on self-betrayal are prisons disguised as partnerships. That love that requires you to stop being yourself is just elaborate self-destruction. So he's established a hierarchy. Himself first, everyone else second. Not because others don't matter, but because if he loses himself trying to keep them, he's lost the only person he can never recover. You can find new friends, new partners, new connections. You can't find a new self. You get one, and if you trade it away, it's gone. Here's what this looks like in practice. Someone he cares about gives an ultimatum. Change this about yourself or I'm gone. Most people panic. They calculate. Can I make this change? Can I preserve this relationship? Can I be who they need me to be? The Sigma male doesn't calculate. He evaluates. Is this change aligned with who I am? Does it serve my values? Does it move me toward the person I'm becoming? If yes, maybe he makes it. Not for them, for himself. If no, he doesn't make it. And if that means they leave, they leave. The relationship was conditional on him betraying himself. And conditional love based on self-betrayal isn't love worth keeping. He'll grieve the loss, but he won't prevent it through self-abandonment, because he's already learned that preventing loss through self-abandonment is just prolonging the inevitable. Either they'll leave eventually anyway, or he'll leave when the accumulated self-betrayal becomes unbearable. Let me show you the mechanism that enables this fearlessness. Most people are incomplete. They have holes, voids, empty spaces they're trying to fill with other people. They need partners to feel whole, friends to feel valuable, family to feel secure. Their completeness is distributed across multiple relationships, which means losing any relationship threatens their sense of wholeness. The Sigma male is complete, self-contained, whole unto himself. He doesn't need anyone to fill spaces because there are no spaces requiring filling. People in his life are enhancements, not necessities. They add to his experience. They don't constitute his experience. This completeness makes loss painful but not devastating. Painful because he values what he's losing. Not devastating because losing it doesn't create a hole. He was whole before they arrived. He'll be whole after they leave. The wholeness is internal. It doesn't depend on external presence. Here's the deeper layer. Most people construct their identity from relationships. Who am I? I'm her husband, his friend, their colleague. Remove the relationship, you remove part of their identity. The Sigma male constructs his identity from values, principles, and purpose. Who is he? He's someone who lives by these values, operates from these principles, pursues this purpose. Relationships are part of his life. They're not his identity. Losing a relationship doesn't threaten his sense of self because his sense of self exists independently of any relationship. He knows who he is with or without anyone. And that knowing creates fearlessness. You can take the people. You can't take his self-knowledge. You can remove the relationships. You can't remove his values. You can leave him. You can't leave him with nothing, because he's something independent of who's around him. Now let's talk about the economic principle operating here. Scarcity creates fear. Abundance creates confidence. Most people experience relationship scarcity. They believe deep connections are rare. Compatible partners are hard to find. True friends are few. This scarcity makes every relationship feel precious, worth protecting at high cost, worth compromising for, worth enduring dysfunction to maintain. The Sigma male doesn't experience relationship scarcity, not because he has abundant relationships, but because he's proven to himself that he can build connections when needed. He's done it before. He can do it again. He's not desperate to preserve any particular relationship because he's confident in his ability to create new relationships if current ones end. This isn't taking people for granted. It's trusting himself. Trusting that his capacity to connect isn't dependent on any specific person. That his ability to build meaningful relationships is portable. Take away this friend, he can make another. Take away this partner, he can find another. Not identical, not interchangeable, but sufficient. And sufficiency eliminates desperate clinging. Here's the mechanism most people never understand. The fear of losing someone creates the behavior that drives them away. When you're afraid of loss, you become clingy, controlling, compromising. You suppress your truth to avoid conflict. You tolerate mistreatment to prevent abandonment. You diminish yourself to make them comfortable. This behavior, born from fear of loss, often creates the loss you feared. Because people sense desperation. They feel the clinging energy. They recognize they're being accommodated rather than being met by authentic person. And that recognition creates either contempt or guilt. Either they lose respect for you because you've lost respect for yourself, or they feel guilty for the power your fear gives them. Either way, the relationship deteriorates. The Sigma male's lack of fear creates the opposite dynamic. He's authentic, boundaried, uncompromising about core values. This behavior, born from lack of fear, often preserves relationships. Because people respect authenticity, they value boundaries. They're attracted to someone who knows themselves and won't betray themselves. The irony is perfect. Fearing loss creates it. Not fearing loss prevents it. Let me take you into the emotional mathematics. Most people think love means needing someone. The more you need them, the more you love them. The more you'd be devastated by their loss, the deeper the love. The Sigma male operates on different math. Love is appreciation, not need. Deep appreciation for who someone is. Genuine care for their well-being. Real investment in their growth. But not need. Not dependency. Not requirement for his own well-being. This love is actually stronger than need-based love, because it's voluntary. He's choosing to love when he doesn't need to. Choosing to stay when he could be fine alone. That choice, made from freedom rather than necessity, is truer than any commitment made from desperation. And because the love isn't based on need, it's not threatened by potential loss. He can love fully while not fearing loss completely. The two aren't contradictory, they're complementary. Full love without fear of loss is the only mature form of love. Everything else is need pretending to be love. Here's what enables this fearlessness at the practical level. The Sigma male has built a life that works without anyone. He's not waiting for a partner to start living. He's not postponing happiness until he finds his person. He's not organizing his existence around eventual connection. He's living now, fully, completely, with purpose, meaning, satisfaction, and growth happening daily. Whether someone's there or not. This isn't consolation prize. This isn't settling for loneliness. This is genuine life construction that's complete without requiring addition. And when someone enters this complete life, they're bonus, not foundation. Losing a bonus is disappointing. Losing foundation is catastrophic. He's built foundation himself. So losing anyone, no matter how valued, is losing bonus. And you can survive losing bonuses. Now, let's examine the philosophical principle beneath this fearlessness. Most people believe meaning comes from relationships. That life without deep connections is empty. That isolation is the worst fate. The Sigma male has discovered meaning exists independent of relationships. Meaning comes from purpose, from growth, from creation, from mastery, from contribution, from self-actualization. Relationships enhance meaning. They don't create it. This discovery is liberation. It means being alone isn't meaningless. It's just a different form of meaningful. It means losing someone doesn't remove meaning from life. It changes the form of meaning, but doesn't eliminate it. Understanding that meaning exists, whether people are present or absent, removes the existential terror of loss. Loss becomes sad event, not existential catastrophe. You're losing someone valuable. You're not losing everything that makes life worth living. Here's the brutal truth most people avoid. Some relationships should end. Some people should be lost. Some connections are toxic, limiting, or incompatible. But fear of loss keeps people in relationships long past their expiration date. They know it's wrong. They feel it's not working. They understand they're both unhappy. But fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of loss keeps them trapped in dysfunction. The Sigma male's lack of fear grants him clarity. He can see when a relationship has run its course, can recognize when incompatibility is fundamental, can accept when continuing hurts both people, and he can end it. Cleanly, completely. Not from cruelty, from clarity. He's not afraid of the loss that ending creates, so he can make the difficult decision most people postpone indefinitely. He can lose someone now, rather than losing years to a relationship that was already dead. Let me show you the power dynamic this creates. When you fear losing someone, they have power over you. They can threaten to leave, can use your fear as leverage, can get you to compromise, accommodate, submit. Your fear makes you controllable. When you don't fear losing someone, they have no leverage. They can threaten to leave. You'll miss them, but you'll be fine. They can attempt to control through fear of abandonment. You're not afraid of abandonment. They can demand you change or lose them. You'll either change if the change serves you, or lose them if it doesn't. This lack of fear redistributes power. Not because the Sigma male is trying to have power over them, but because they can't have power over him through the mechanism most people use. Fear of loss is the primary control mechanism in relationships. Remove that fear, and most manipulation evaporates. Here's the relational pattern this creates. Healthy people are attracted to his fearlessness. They recognize someone who won't be controlled through fear. Someone who will stay out of choice rather than necessity. Someone who loves from abundance rather than scarcity. This is attractive because it promises real partnership between equals. Unhealthy people are repelled by his fearlessness. They need partners they can manipulate through fear. Need people who'll stay despite mistreatment because they're too afraid to leave. Need relationships with power imbalance. His fearlessness makes him unsuitable for their purposes, so he accidentally filters. The people who stay are those comfortable with equal partnership. The people who leave are those who needed the power that fear of loss provides them. His fearlessness is screening mechanism, selecting for quality, repelling toxicity. Now let's talk about what happens when he does lose someone. Does he grieve? Absolutely. Does he feel pain? Deeply. Does he miss them? Profoundly. But does he regret being himself? Never. Does he wish he'd compromised? No. Does he wonder if preventing the loss would have been worth betraying himself? Not for a second. The grief is clean. It's mourning genuine loss. But it's not contaminated by regret over who he was in the relationship. He showed up authentically, gave what he could give while remaining himself. The loss is sad, but the relationship, while it lasted, was honest. And honest relationships that end are less painful than dishonest relationships that continue. He grieves what was. But he doesn't torture himself with what might have been if only he'd been someone else. Because being someone else is exactly what he's learned is never worth it. Here's the final truth about why Sigma males don't fear losing anyone. They've already made the most important commitment. The commitment to themselves, to their values, to their integrity, to their authenticity. This commitment supersedes all other commitments. Not because other commitments don't matter, but because if you break your commitment to yourself, all other commitments become lies. You can't genuinely commit to someone else while betraying yourself. You can't authentically love someone while abandoning your values for them. You can't truly be present in relationship while playing role instead of being real. The Sigma male's primary commitment is to remaining himself. And as long as that commitment is kept, losing anyone is survivable, because the person he needs most, himself, remains. The person whose loss would be catastrophic, himself, is preserved. Everyone else, no matter how loved, is secondary, not in value, in hierarchy of commitment. So why don't Sigma males fear losing anyone? Not because they're cold, because they're clear. Not because they don't love, because they love themselves first, making all other love sustainable. Not because people don't matter, because self-betrayal matters more. Not because they can't be hurt by loss, because they've learned that staying through self-abandonment hurts worse than leaving through self-preservation. They don't fear losing anyone because they've already decided what they'll never lose again: themselves, their values, their integrity, their authenticity. And once you've decided that no relationship is worth losing yourself for, you've achieved the greatest freedom possible. The freedom to love fully without fear of loss, to commit deeply without clinging, to care profoundly without needing, to stay as long as you can be yourself and leave when being yourself requires it. That's why they don't fear losing anyone. They've already faced the worst loss possible, the loss of self, and survived it. Everything else is just people coming and going from a life that's complete, with or without them. Sad when they go, grateful when they stay. But never, ever compromise to prevent the departure that fear demands, but wisdom knows isn't worth the price of preventing.